This is more of an exercise in world building. There's a character in here that's still relevant to the story as it's going to be told, but this is more for just a little bit of world building and practice as a writer. But this is Alvaronian Legends, The Wolf Spider. You won't do it, you're too scared. Willem had been goading Milton all day, surrounded by their peers. They were all friends, having grown up in the same village, but Willem had a habit of pushing others to do things for his amusement. "You weren't supposed to go in there! Stop it, Willem!" Jessica, the smith's daughter, piped up. Willem liked to call her Goody Two-Shoes, as she liked to think of herself as the voice of reason in their gang, which in most cases she was. Milo jabbed his fingers at Jessica silently when Willem turned back, shouting in his muted way that he agreed with him. "Maybe this isn't a good idea, Willem. My mother says the canyon is dangerous," came Mina's small voice. A mousy-haired girl with a quiet disposition, her father was said to beat both her and her mother when deep in his cups, which seemed to be more often than not, though it had slackened since Jessica's father had caught him in the act and broken his nose. "Look, all he has to do is go in until this runs out and then wind it back up and come out," Willem said to them, holding a ball of black thread. "Why don't you go in?" Milton's voice made them all go silent and turn to him. Milton didn't speak often, and got straight to the point when he did, no matter how uncomfortable it might be. He also didn't startle easily as the son of a hunter, already becoming skilled with a bow and spear and was well acquainted with wild animals. Willem had no reply for Milton's question, save the one he kept to himself, which Milton already suspected. He feared the canyon. They had all grown up hearing about it, and how it was the entrance to a great labyrinth carved by centuries of rain and rivers, and being told to avoid going in at all costs, as there were too many stories of those foolhardy or desperate enough to go in, and never coming back out. They all stared at Willem for a moment before Milton shrugged and took the thread, offering the loose end for Willem to hold. Willem stood for a moment staring at the thread ball and the loose end that Milton held out to him, before Mina's voice came from behind him and lit a flare of childish indignance. "Are you afraid, Willem?" The question was genuine, but in the ways of childhood it was also binding. If he answered yes, he was a coward. If he answered no and refused to take the thread and go in, he was still a coward. There was only one thing he could do, and he dreaded it. He took the ball of thread and turned back to the others. "No, I'm not afraid. I'll go in right now." Willem tried to sound braver than he felt, and failed. The others knew he was lying, especially Milton, who knew that the weaver's son had never been exposed to real danger in his life, and so let a slight smile raise the corners of his mouth when Willem turned to look at him. He stood at the mouth of the canyon, the ball of thread in his hands and the loose end in Milton's, while the others looked on, resigned to what was about to happen. Willem began to walk, gently clutching the thread and letting it unwind as he neared the turn in the stone walls, glancing back to see his four friends just before the rock closed off his view and he was left alone. He wound his way through the twists and turns for a while, the ball growing smaller in his grip until it was clutched in the fingers of only one hand, and finally he reached the tail end. Willem felt a lightening of his heart as he turned back and began to wind up the thread, stopping to look now as he was on his way out. The gray stone was worn smooth on most of the walls and ground, with pockets casting shadows. Outside the canyon, the other children waited, Jessica pacing anxiously, Mina sitting quietly next to Milo, who stared at the canyon's mouth, and Milton, who held the thread's end, with his eyes facing skywards. There was a slight tug on the twine that made him sit up. His movement caught the attention of the other children, who grouped around him. The thread was still, before there was a tug that pulled it from Milton's fingers, making him start. Milton scrambled and grabbed the thread again, holding it tighter while it began to slowly pull further toward the canyon's mouth. "What's he doing?" Jessica whispered, fearful tears welling up in her eyes. "He's trying to scare us again," Mina said in a bored tone. Suddenly they all yelled as there was a scream from Milo. The yell made their skin prickle. Milo was born without words, and this was the first time he'd ever made a sound. He was furiously pointing at the canyon's mouth as he screamed before tripping over his heels and running back to the village. Jessica and Mina turned back to look and screamed, and Milton was left alone. When he turned, the thread had no slack, like something was pulling it in, and just beyond the bend in the stone, there was something standing there. All at once, everything was dark, and all he could see was a gaping maw of dark yellow teeth like a wolf, but too many eyes, too many glowing yellow eyes. Milton knew animals and what danger they were capable of, but this was no animal. This was something else, something dark that wanted to swallow him as the jaws came closer, inky darkness spilling out from between its teeth before Milton dropped the thread and ran. The moment he turned from the canyon, daylight returned, and the village was growing larger as he sprinted to it, daring not look back and see that creature again. But it wasn't there. It had never truly been there. And as the children ran home to seek the comfort of their parents, the thread slowly snaked its way past the canyon's mouth and around the bend into the labyrinth. As Willem wound the thread and made his way back, he felt a sense of triumph. A smug grin spread across his face as he imagined the faces of his friends when he emerged unharmed and having survived the maze. Then everything vanished and was replaced with a hollow sense of horror. There, in the middle of a split in the path, was the rest of the thread, loosely piled, like someone had left it there. His smugness was replaced by terror. They left him here to teach him a lesson for all the pranks he played on them. He called out to them, his voice breaking as tears rolled down his face and made his eyes red. He called out for them over and over again, only to hear his words echo back and overlap in a sound like laughing. Willem stopped and was quiet, wanting the echoes to die away, but they didn't. The names he called out kept bouncing off the walls, and his blood ran cold when he heard a new sound among them. Whispers of his name that came from everywhere, accompanied by the cawing of crows overhead and chuckling that filled his head. He clasped his hands over his ears, only to find that he could still hear everything, and began to walk backwards, tears falling, until his back touched the cold stone, where he slid down and drew his knees into his chest, and he wept in his own embrace. He cried until he felt he couldn't cry anymore, and only then noticed the silence. The echoes, whispers, crows, and laughing were all gone. Looking around, he only saw the thread where he dropped it, and the empty gateways of the diverging paths. He started when he noticed a dark figure crouched down only a few feet away, trying to push himself deeper into the alcove he was in. "Ease, boy, ease," said a voice from inside the ragged hood, the arms reaching out reassuringly, though his hands were still concealed beneath the billowing sleeves. "I'll not hurt you. What is your name?" The voice was calm and soothing, making Willem relax, but he was still very wary of the stranger. He was dressed like a beggar in a thickly layered ragged cloak, but he spoke like someone who'd been taught etiquette. And why was he here in the labyrinth? "Willem, who are you?" The question was cautious but polite, which seemed to please the stranger, whose reply gave the impression that he was now smiling. "Thank you."
Nice. Very pleased with that. Leave you hanging. Very nice, very nice. How many pages? Total. Huh?
4 total for this one.
Oh, for the total. Oh, 4.
Yeah, this was just 2 pages.
Oh, okay. No, for the whole short story, or is it a?
Oh, the whole short story is just 4 pages long.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I calculated the read time, and it was about 16 minutes, so I rounded it up to 20.
Cool. I dig it, man. Yeah, bring the second part back.
Okay.
I dig it. What's the name of the short story again?
The Wolf Spider.
So stay tuned while you Creativa peeps out there. We'll be back second Saturday of every month. Next month, premiere of Murder in Black Sabbath. We have a lot of artwork for sale too. Matt Parmenter's going to sell some stuff. So yeah, something to look forward to. We have a rock band I think we're going to do following month. My friends Rachel, Jason. Anyways, enjoy the evening. Have fun. Peace out. Thanks a lot.
Okay.